I'm Doug Pease. I'm the principal at Floyd Light Middle School.
What are you most excited about this year?
I'm very excited that this year is kind of a new start for all our students. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about starting some new innovations that we're doing here at Floyd Light, and that it is a fresh start, a fresh slate. A clean slate is the word for all of our students and our adults. And we've taken advantage of that.
How do you encompass equity as a leader?
I really do, well, this is a question later on, but I really do think about guidance that I've been given about every decision I make. I really think about how is this going to impact every group, every student, individual student in our school. It also means when I'm hiring. I will say as a leader, that is my most important job, is hiring. And it's very important that I hire the people that will be great for kids and the people that kids will see in themselves. So I really pay attention to that.
How do you include the David Douglas School District equity lens when making building-wide decisions?
Well, I orient myself in my office, which I try not to spend too much time in, but I start there and I end there. And the equity lens questions are directly in front of me, and that's on purpose. So I read them every single day, just so I have them. I still don't have them memorized, but I'm going to get to that point by the end of the year. And I think about that when somebody comes in and says, what do you think about this? And when I have to make a snap decision, I do look at that and think about that when I'm making those decisions. But then they're not always the right decision, especially through an equity lens. But I go back and I review. Now, when I said that off the top of my head, off the cuff, was I looking through the equity lens, or was I going back 30 years to when I first started? And I'm not afraid to reevaluate a decision that I've made. And I have done this, not this year, but in previous years. I've said that was the wrong decision and we're going to do it this way.
What does a racially affirming school environment look like?
I don't think that that's a black and white answer. I think it's an evolving answer. There's a word that I'm searching for. It's an organic answer that changes. But I think it's always, do we have the students and their families' best interests in mind? Are we thinking about it? I know we talk about colorblind. We got to get rid of that phrase, and we have to acknowledge people's lived experiences, and be thinking about that. It's not always one answer, and it's evolving. But one thing I want to mention about that, because I did read these questions beforehand, I hope I'm not cheating the camera, but it does involve families. I think I can't say that enough. We have to get the families involved and ask their opinion and our wider school community. So we just have to get all those voices in, and we have a lot of partners, and we got to get those voices in, and we're doing that here at Floyd Light.
What is your equity stance?
Well, my personal stance is that, this is 10, 15, 20 years old, but equity is not equality. So we have to see where there's gaps, and we have to concentrate on those gaps. And I really do mean the word concentrate. That's a pretty strong word. We're trying some innovations here, specifically looking at some gaps, trying to make our school more equitable. And just this morning, talking about how can we gather that data to see if we're being effective. And we're not going to know that until January because we're comparing first semester, but that's an example of what we're trying to do here.
How will you use data to ensure equitable outcomes for students?
Well, we're making some hypotheses, some guesses, and we want to see if that does make a difference. We do know that there's other factors, but we want to make sure that it is making a difference. And if it's not, then we are more than happy to change what we're doing, to modify what we're doing, to make sure that we are making that difference. And analyzing exactly what that difference means and not doing superficial numbers and really digging deep.
What equity practices do you hope to see in every classroom?
What I want to make sure we see in every classroom is, and I'm going to say it this way on purpose, a superficial, welcoming environment for every single student to make them feel welcome. The other part of it, though, is I want to make sure our classroom practices are reflecting a deeper thought about what equity means. An example, and I don't know if this is later on, but an example of that is we did reduce the number of sections we have in language arts, English, and mathematics. But what I was really animate about is that we don't lower the ceiling. And I think that that's an example of my equity stance, is that because if we would lower the ceiling and not do advanced classes, that affects all of our students, including our BIPOC students. And I want to make sure that all of our students are getting stretched when it's appropriate. So that's my equity stance, is that I really want to see how a decision I make affects every single one of our students.
Can you expand on what you mean by a superficial welcoming environment?
Well, I'm just going to quote Zaretta Hammond, who's a national commentator on culturally responsive teaching practices. And what I can hear, I was able to spend some time with her, and I'm really quoting her when she says a welcoming environment is great, but you can't just have a welcoming environment. You have to make sure you're giving every one of your students solid skills to be successful. And so that's what I'm talking about with superficial, that it starts with a welcoming environment, but it can't end with that. It can't be just, hey, I'm glad you're here, and then ignore going deeper into student skills. And I've really taken that to heart, and that's what I'm talking about doing the advanced classes. Certainly we want kids to feel welcome, we want to get them in the door, but once they're in the door, we got to make sure that we have really high expectations for all of our students.
As you self-reflect on your spring and summer hiring practices, share your efforts and outcomes to diversify your school building for both classified and certified positions.
I have hired a lot of staff of color, both certified and classified this past spring and summer. Very proud of that. And I know how important that is to reflect our student population. And I'm just going to say the result, a month and a half in, has been extremely positive. Feel like all of our staff have really integrated into our Floyd Light family, and the students have responded to all of our staff that we've hired, and it's just been a very positive experience. I'm Doug Pease, principal at Floyd Light Middle School, and I absolutely believe in equity.